So, so if we could just focus really on the core results,
yes.
that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Just make sure this works. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Again, apologies for this morning. If you've ever had one of those mornings where everything that could go wrong does go wrong, that was me today. Thank you for allowing me to be here today as a first-year PhD student. This is a really great opportunity, and I'm very excited to be learning from so many experts in the field. Today, I'm going to be discussing some of my work, which focuses on examining the impact of comorbid PTSD on childhood trauma, on ketamine's efficacy in treatment-resistant depression. I don't really have any conflicts. Yep. All right. So while I'm skipping, essentially background being that the PTSD, when we see it used for ketamine, we don't really have concrete results. There's a bit of mixed results. So what we did here is we have community-based outpatient ketamine clinics, and we had a sample size of 144 participants split into two different groups, one group with comorbid PTSD, one group without comorbid PTSD, and that was based on a screening questionnaire as well as the PCL5. And so we did 4 infusions of ketamine over 2 weeks. And we are at our results. So essentially, we did KID scores over the 4 infusions, and what we found was that the KID score declined significantly for each consecutive infusion, but it didn't seem to matter if they were in the comorbid PTSD group versus the non-comorbid PTSD group. So we have the green line being the comorbid PTSD group, and the light blue line being the non-comorbid PTSD group. So you can see that the decline was significant for both. It's a meaningful change, greater than 3.5 points on the KID-SIR for depression. Then I looked at PTSD symptoms. So this is specifically PCL5 scores. So they declined significantly from the first infusion to the 4th infusion. Again, putting that into perspective, a minimal important difference on the PCL5 is 9 to 12 points, and we saw a decline of around 10.26 points. Then I thought maybe symptom clusters were involved, and that maybe one of the symptom clusters is responding more than the others. I found that that wasn't the case, that all symptom clusters declined significantly, as shown by the mean differences here, p-values, and effect sizes being moderate to large. Then I wanted to see, okay, maybe it's not the comorbid PTSD, it's the adverse childhood events that might be affecting ketamine's efficacy in PTSD. So I went on, we don't need to cover that, I went on and I had 84 patients who had previously received these ketamine infusions. Essentially, it's not the same full sample because we followed up with these patients to see if they were interested in an add-on study that was pharmacogenetics. And so 84 agreed to this, and we were able to do some additional questionnaires with them, including the childhood trauma questionnaire. If you're interested in the pharmacogenetics paper, that's it right there. It was just recently published. So of those 84, I separated them into a low adverse childhood experiences and a high adverse childhood experiences group. This was based on the CTQ. So we had a low group of 47, and then the high group of 37. And moving on to results, once again, I looked at the difference between the two and how they declined over the course of the 4 ketamine infusions. And I found that there was no significant difference between the two groups, again with the high being in pink and the light blue being the low group. So all of them declined from each subsequent infusion, but no significant difference whether they were grouped into high versus low comorbid, or high versus low childhood trauma. So conclusions, based on our analysis, 4 infusions of sub-anesthetic intravenous ketamine can produce a clinically significant reduction in depressive symptoms, regardless of comorbid PTSD or adverse childhood experiences. Interestingly, the PTSD severity was also reduced with the treatment. So this provides some preliminary evidence from a real-world sample of a possible therapeutic avenue for TRD with comorbid PTSD and childhood trauma. I won't talk too much about limitations, but there are inherently limitations with self-report and being open label. But we have some ongoing RCTs in our lab that I just wanted to mention to kind of address those limitations. 2 studies looking at ketamine for bipolar depression, and 1 study looking at unipolar depression with psilocybin. I'd like to acknowledge my supervisors, all of my colleagues, and our wonderful patients and staff at CRTCU. I hope that was quick.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, Danica. You did a great job given the constraints. You've managed to focus us onto this, and actually you've left us with some time for questions, which is lovely. But I think what we'll do is we'll give you an opportunity to record the talk so that along with all the other talks, we've got your full talk, if that's all right, so that people can get it in its full glory online. But is there anything that anybody would like to ask Danica? Any questions? Okay. So, Sanjay.
Thank you for that presentation. When you're looking at the CTQ and the impact of early childhood trauma, it's important to control the analyses for BMI. As we know, there's a relationship between obesity and childhood trauma and so on, and there could be implications for the dosing of ketamine and so on. So did you look at if the doses between the groups differed, the impact of BMI in those samples?
Yeah, so the doses technically can differ. So after the 2 infusions, they are allowed to up the dose to 0.75 milligrams per kilogram. And that's if they don't respond adequately to the 0.5 milligrams per kilogram. So that is possible and something I haven't controlled for in this analysis. BMI, because it was from outpatient ketamine clinics, I will say that the data collection wasn't as great as it could have been, but when I'm publishing, I'm hoping to publish the results of this, and I'm doing a chart review of every single patient and going through them to make sure that we have all of that information, and BMI would be something that I would control for, yes.
Okay, good point. Thank you. I think it's coffee time. Thank you very much indeed. So if we could have you all back at 11 o'clock.